This is Down Home Sports, covering the best sports and student athletes in Ellis County. Brought to you by Pinnacle Bank with ATM Live, powered by the people. Not just another bank in Texas, but Texas in a bank. The United States Marine Corps, the fighting spirit of an entire nation. Doe City Pizza and Burgers. For the best in artisan pizza and burgers, go to Doe City in Red Oak, Texas, across from the high school. It is delicious.
With today's busy schedules, we need flexibility. Pinnacle Bank is the way banking should be. With ATM Live, powered by the people. They have hours that make it easy. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can just pull up to one of the easy-to-access ATMs, where there's always someone live, friendly, and knowledgeable to help you. Pinnacle Bank, not just another bank in Texas, but Texas in a bank. Member FDIC. Hey, Ellis County, guess what? We got the woman, the myth, the legend, the Waxahachie Hoops basketball coach, Ashley Zuniga, and we got Scout Burns. Coach, 2-0 to start the season. Let's repeat that, 2-0.
Yeah,
Tell me, Coach, got to feel good about this start, right?
Yeah, it's the best start we've had since I've been here.
Well, what's made the girls get out to this kind of start thus far?
Honestly, we're so young this year. We really didn't know what to expect. I think what has caused us to have such a great start is they are really playing hard and playing together. We definitely have our fair share of things messing up, which to be expected as the beginning of the season. But I just think that because they are playing so hard, we're finding ways to win.
Well, and I mean, you just were at the tip-off. I want to get this correct. It was the tip-off tournament, correct?
Yeah, so it was a invitational showcase, which, as you know, that means we were invited to play.
Yeah.
Fran Harris, who is a young lady that is a graduate of South Oak Cliff, played for the Houston Comets. So her brother put on this great event, actually. And so we were the first high school game and pulled off a big win against a very solid Trinity Christian team.
Well, Scout, let's talk about this. Playing down the post, right? Important position. You know, you're getting those rebounds. You're kicking it out and starting to play. Coach likes to run a little bit, so that fits in. How important is it for y'all over the offseason this year when y'all are working out to work on those things, to work on that timing, to work on those lanes and keep those passes going like that?
It's pretty big time because for me, that's how I'm gonna score by, screening and rolling and posting up. So we got to just make sure the post and the point guard connection, pretty solid. So when we get to the season, we got it down.
Hey, Coach, that sounds like an easy plan, right there. A lot harder to execute. But let's always, right? I mean, it's just a pick and roll. That's nothing, right? But no, but let's talk a little bit. You had one of your players get the MVP, and that was Colin Mcbride.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
He had a double-double one day with 10 points, 11 rebounds.
That's correct.
So, just talk about her impact on the team. And, you lost a really good senior from last year. That was a Hatchie hoop. True blue right there.
Yeah.
And, how the team is filling that void. And you don't normally feel that right away with one person. It takes 5 ladies getting together to fill it. Just talk about how they're –
For sure. So one of the things we knew going in, there would be no one person that would fill the void of Maya. It's not possible. So these kids knew in order to be able to do that, we have to play as a unit. Kyla will definitely help us. She should average, honestly, a double-double every game. It should be something that is expected and that she's capable of doing. But I think we actually have better pieces around us this year than what we've had in the years past. The years before, it was kind of we went as Maya went. And even though Maya would score 20 to 30 points, it was a lot to ask from one player. I think what makes this team different is we actually have people in all 5 positions that are looking to score, and we haven't always had that since I've been here.
Well, and Scout saying that, I mean, what's changing that mentality with the team? Is it just Maya's gone and we just have to step up? Or is it y'all just come together and say, hey, look, we can do this as a complete unit. Let's show them what we got. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like it's both. We kind of, we know we have big shoes to fill, so we kind of have to, step up. And we have like some new players from different schools, so they necessarily don't know, how Maya was, but like me and Kyla, who's been there, we kind of have to be leaders and say like, oh, we got big shoes to fill. Let's do that.
Was that one of those things that, being 3 years on varsity, that, it's one thing for the coach to hand you that responsibility. It's another thing to actually take the reins and take that responsibility as your own. Do you feel like that the elder class has come up and taken the reins and just taking that leadership role in hand?
Yeah, I feel like especially this year we've had to, because we don't have any seniors. So us juniors are the the seniors of the team, so we have to step up.
Awesome. Well, Coach, just talk about your off-season workouts. And I know the ladies were working hard all off season. I know most of them played, some other basketball groups, worked on their skills and kept that up. Just talk about, or even conditioning and stuff. Is that going to allow you to do some things that maybe you haven't done in the past? Or how does that affect you?
Yeah. So really, honestly, when you're going in with probably what's going to be a totally new varsity team, which we knew in the off season, or what we call the preseason, we focus more on the strength and conditioning and just the fundamentals of basketball. So we focused a lot on individual work. We focused a lot on our strength and conditioning. We totally revamped what we did in the weight room. We've gone away from Olympic style lifting to more stability and core lifting, just to make the kids understand that they are stronger than what they expected themselves to be if they've got a strong core. So just different lifting. Of course, running. We're going to always run. There's no team that I coach that's not going to run. So conditioning. But as far as, some people in the offseason, they know exactly what offense and defense they want to put in. We were going in this season totally blind. We knew we had 2 returning varsity players, and that was it. So we knew it was going to be a brand new team. I'm not a coach that says, hey, we're going to run this offense come whatever. I'm more, let's see what we have of the kids that are going to be on that varsity and find something that works for them. So Scout will tell you, honestly, we didn't put in our new offense till middle of, September, because we were waiting to see who was going to be on that varsity and what do we do well and what do we not do well.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty interesting to me because, like you said, most coaches already have it going long before then. Well, Scout, Coach mentioned that core workout, and do you not feel like, one thing I know from coaching over the years in softball was if you got a great core, everything's great. If your feet are right, everything's right. How much has that core workout helped you on the boards thus far and, putting the shots back, et cetera?
I feel like I've definitely improved from my freshman year, or even like the very beginning of my freshman year. Like my footwork, not very quick, but I feel like I've had to get better because of the competition, of who we play. But I feel like it's important, and I feel like it's important that I'm still getting better, and the whole team still has to be.
Well, no, don't feel bad. You're faster than I'll ever be, okay? So just know that, all right? Well, Scout, let's talk a little bit about Coach Zennigan because, I mean, if you don't have the offense and the defense in yet, and y'all are putting a lot of trust in her in doing that as players, right? How much trust, how much love do y'all as a team have for Coach?
Well, we got a lot. Well, we have, I mean, both a lot of love and trust because, you know, we can't obviously do it by ourselves. And we know she and the other coaches know what they're talking about because, you know, we've had times where we've tried to do it by ourselves and we've seen how it's gotten us. So.
That's pretty awesome. Well, Coach, I know you had the honor to go with a national coaching deal just a couple weeks ago. Could you just talk about that to everybody and let them know exactly what you're doing?
Yeah. So I was chosen. I was one of 11, I believe, DFW high school coaches that were chosen to work Wooden Top 150. So it's basically the top 100 seniors in class of 2022. Top 50 juniors would be class of 2023, and then a handful of sophomores, which was class of 2024, from all over the United States. And it basically was an all-star tournament where they come together. We teach them drills and things like that, but more they get to play against the best of the best. And so it was a huge honor. Very grateful. You know, I don't know why I was selected, but I'm glad I was just in the building. My group went 5-2 and we finished third. I had young ladies from California to Minnesota, a young lady that actually originally was from Canada and has now moved to the States. She's in Utah, but just a great group of young ladies that were, I thought it was awesome because they were willing to learn from me, somebody that they only knew for 36 hours, you know, but they listened, they played hard, and it was just a great learning experience for me as well. I just enjoyed it, and Lord willing, I'll get to do it again next summer.
Well, you know, when you have those opportunities, do you not take little things from there that you see as a coach and just, you know, like different little things that somebody might have in their game, their bag of tricks, and bring it back to your players?
Oh, for sure. Even just looking at the other things that other coaches do. So maybe they ran a quick hitter that I'm like, oh, that's good. You know, the best coaches steal from other coaches, you know, and you give credit where credit is due. So it was little bitty things. I think what I took from it the most was that even with elite players like that level, the fundamentals sometimes still are overlooked. And you can't expect elite status without great fundamental work. And so for me, it was like, even with these young ladies that I have at Waxahachie, don't forget the fundamentals. Everybody needs to know the fundamentals because if they can do that, if they have the desire to move on and play at the next level, they can take those fundamentals and go and plug themselves into any program.
Well, Scout, you know, I always say this, the one thing that you'll never forget, you know, really in high school sports is the bus rides. You might have a team that makes it to district. You might have a team that makes it to state, all that great stuff. You'll remember that kind of stuff. But the bus rides are where memories are made. So I got to know who this year has the aux cord, okay? Who's getting the TikToks going, you know, playing stuff that even Coach Zuniga hasn't ever heard of on the radio.
Well, really, it's not a player. It's Coach Prophet. She's the one that, you know, when music's played, she's playing it.
Okay. Well, she's playing good stuff. That's the main thing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So no. Okay. So it's not the songs y'all want, but no, but just talk about, you know, to me, it's always been when you got a really good team, the bus rides are always fun. Win, lose, or draw, you know, it's a fun time and it's a time to get closer together. And, you know, you'll have team dinners and stuff throughout the year, but how are y'all utilizing that time right now? And are y'all taking advantage of it, especially after the past couple of seasons where a lot of teams didn't have that availability?
I feel like we use that bus ride as a time to like get locked in before we get there. Like, not much talking or discussing. It's, hey, get your mind right. We're about to go play. Know what you're doing. Be ready. That's how our bus rides have been these past games we played.
Okay, but then y'all cut it loose when you're back home with the win?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Scout, I'm going to ask you. I want you to find your inner Coach Zuniga. I want you to get loud. I want you to get animated, okay, and tell everybody in Ellis County why they ought to be watching the Waxahachie Lady Indian basketball team.
They got to come out and watch. We got a lot to offer this year. A bunch of different people bringing different things. We're expected to play hard, both ends of the floor. Be tough. If there's a loose ball, go get the ball. So, it should be a good season and fun to watch.
Well, Coach, every year most teams have a motto. What's y'all's motto this year, and what do you expect it to mean for your team?
We've thrown around a lot of different ideas, and the one that has stuck to me for this year is we over me. Having such a young team, and I mean that young in varsity experience, young in age, it's easy to get locked in on the me. And so this year it's we over me. What are we doing that's going to be better for the team and not just ourselves? If we focus more on the we part, it can really be a great season.
Awesome. Well, Scott, I don't mean to break the motto here, okay? But you being a 3-year varsity player, I just got to ask, is there that one girl that's on the team right now that you think is just going to jump up from, like the sophomore, freshman ranks and just be that key component to help push all over the edge?
Well, I feel like my sister has been getting the opportunity to play with us. She's a freshman. She played with us in our tournament, and I feel like she really helped, maybe like a missing part kind of. And I don't know, I feel like she's helped us, even though she's not played with us, as much as, the other people have. I feel like she's helped us when she has played. And yeah.
That's a pretty good sister right there. My daughters wouldn't have said, they'd never said their sister. I'll tell you that right now. They'd have told you what was wrong with the game. So that's a little bit of we over me right there, let me tell you. Well, Coach, what should we expect y'all to really be focusing on over the next couple of weeks as you're in the preseason, not the preseason, but, what are the kind of things that we should look forward developmental-wise, and things like that?
For sure, being more confident with the ball offensively. We've been sloppy at times in both games, so cleaning that up. I think defense, they've been very solid. So just we can clean up on the offensive end, and that really goes back to just everybody looking to score when they touch the ball. If we can do that, that will be nice to see in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome. And Scout, what does it mean to you to be that? What kind of freedom do you feel now that you're being able to be probably a little bit more aggressive at the rim? How is that changing your game?
It's, I guess now that I'm like an upperclassman, one of the leaders, I kind of have to prove myself and, and work hard and excel so I can help the lower classmen out, so I have to make sure I'm doing my job so I can help the younger people, like the younger kids, when I'm leave, they're ready and they're be able to have the same freedom as I have.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we love you to death. You're one of our faves to come on. And we just can't wait to see how far y'all can take it this year. Ellis County, get ready, because in 6A, this is the team to watch right now.
Do you know the difference?
Well, the best benefit in having true benefits is the fact that they're easy. You can get a hold of them.
It's not 2 days later, a week later, I can make a phone call. If they don't have the answer, they'll get us the answer within 24 hours.
He came to the office and interviewed all of our girls and did a presentation, told them what they were offering, and the girls were able to decide what they needed.
They came in and gave us options both for our company and our employees that were affordable and beneficial for all.
No matter the size of your business or your employees' needs, True Texas Benefits is the partner for you.
Because Ellis County knows the difference.
True Texas Benefits for all your benefits needs.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. battle to belong begins here, among the few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome in, everybody. This is DownHome Sports. This is our first ever football playoff preview. It's a good one, and we've got some great guests to help us kick it off. We'll start on the other side of the Zoom camera. We've got Mr. Tyler Sloan from Sportsgram. He's play-by-play. Thank you, Tyler, for joining us. We've also got Peyton, and we've got Colton McClain from the Dallas Morning News taking time out of their evening to come sit down with us. So thank you all, gentlemen, so much for taking time. Now, Ellis County, we cover all athletics, but we're going to give a little love to football. We did our football preseason preview. We actually had, if you look at Tater's picks, he's probably more spot on than me. He had about 10 of them going to the playoffs. And look enough, we've got 10 right here inside Ellis County, which I think is a pretty dang good number considering there is only 13 schools. So 10 for 13, not bad. I'm going to run down the list of who we've got real quick, and then we'll start breaking it down. Starting from private school, 6-man, moving all the way up to 6A. We've got Ovilla Christian, Avalon, Italy, Maypearl, Palmer, Ferris, Midlothian Heritage, Ennis, Midlothian, and Waxahachie. And so, gentlemen, we'll start down at the bottom. We'll go with Ovilla Christian. And I'm just going to run down a couple of these wins they had. They beat Texoma Christian. They beat Apple Springs. They beat Keene. They beat Syntex Homeschool, which was a huge win for these guys on homecoming. They beat that was Cornerstone Christian Academy on homecoming. And then they beat Heritage Christian. So a team that is young. We've talked to those guys several times on this show. Young, energetic, 6-4 overall, and they made the playoffs. I don't know if you guys get to watch much 6-man, but
not that much.
Not that much. But excuse me. But Ovilla Christian's headed in the right direction. As a team that didn't make the playoffs last year, to come back 6-4, I think they're moving in the right direction. The only problem is, and I'll turn it over to you guys, they're going up against Faith Academy. If you don't know, they're 9-0, 6-0 through district. They're actually, I think, state ranked number 3. And so give us a little bit of information. What do you know about Ovilla Christian? What can we expect?
For me, I think that first off, 6-man is interesting. You know, being in Texas, the big 6A, 4A, 5A schools is what you really want to see. But these 6A games, they can get after it. And it's definitely interesting, you know, seeing the center can do some things that he can't do on the bigger schools and run routes and whatever and catch balls. But other than that, Ovilla Christian is making a name for itself this season. I feel like coming in 6-4, it's probably a little bit better than everybody thought they would be coming in. And, they had the big win versus Cornerstone Christian, which was the number 5 in the district, and that's capped it off to make them a little bit better on for the playoffs. Unfortunately, they still got one of the best teams in the state to play, so it should be a good game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game. A lot of points to be scored. I love watching shootouts, so this could be a 70-65 type game, and I love those kind of games.
Now, Tyler, I don't know if you watch much 6-man, but it's a little different game than playing the old 11-on-11.
No, just slightly. You know, most of the 6-man I've been able to watch has been when they do play at AT&T Stadium there, they shorten the field, which is kind of funny to see that you don't have to go to the end zone there, that they mark them at the 20 and kind of shorten the field there for those state titles, because 6-man doesn't use, you know, the same length of the field. But I mean, that's a fun ticket to have if you go to a 6-man game, because tell you what, it is fast and furious, points always on the board, and that is some exciting football to watch. If you've never checked it out, you really need to.
And so, well, Ovilla Christian, again, it's a big step forward in them making the playoffs. I wish those guys nothing but the best of luck. I know we're located here in Ellis County, but if we're being realistic, that's going to be a dogfight. And if they win it, hey, it's all full steam ahead. But I'm not quite sure if this is their year. And so we wish them the best of luck. And so we're going to move on next to another 6A program, our last 6A program in the playoffs, and that is the Avalon Eagles. Avalon ended up second in district behind Blum, and they are 6-4 on the year, 3-1 through that district play. They will take on Abbott. And now Abbott is state ranked number 3 for 6-man Division I. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but it's just some notable wins. They actually, Avalon did play Abbott to start the year, and they lost 52-6. But that was game one of this long season. They ended up beating Penelope, Walnut Springs. They shut out Golson. They beat Covington. They beat Bynum, and that was a huge game on the road. Milford, the rivalry down here in South Ellis County, it's always a big game. Milford versus Avalon, they won that one, and then they lost to Blum, and that game was the last game of the year for the district championship. So Avalon's got to be feeling pretty good as they roll in. What do you guys expect from the Avalon Eagles? Colton, we'll start with you.
First off, their running back, Eric Padron, he has almost 1,000 rushing yards, and I think he can be a big X factor in this game. And same thing with Abbott. They can run the ball very well. So Avalon has to have a good game defensive-wise and stop the run game, kind of make them one-dimensional.
Peyton, what do you think?
So, I mean, it's unfortunate that all these 6A teams in Ellis County are going to get the top-ranked teams in the state. But the good thing for Avalon is they've already played this team before. So they've got film on them. They can watch it. They can get better from it, which can give them a better shot to win this game. And hopefully they win it all by a big score.
And I'm going to add on to your point there. Coach Malcolm Cole, friend of the show, had on several times. He actually coached with that staff at Abbott for several years before he moved down and took over Avalon. So he is familiar with that coaching staff and with that team. But Tyler, do you see an upset maybe brewing with Avalon over Abbott?
Well, if a major upset was to happen, you would want it to happen here in the first round because, you know, as Abbott goes through the playoffs, they're going to get stronger and stronger. They're going to keep being more prepared. You might be able to catch them sleeping. You know, Abbott might come into this matchup thinking, we already took care of Avalon, you know, back at the beginning of the season. Surely we'll do so again. But Avalon's made a ton of improvements throughout the season. I mean, they've been building for this moment. It's a real measuring stick game to just see how much better this Avalon team has become since that week one loss to Abbott. And we'll find out pretty quickly in that game. If Avalon can get up to a strong start in that first quarter, they might make Abbott feel the nerves a little bit.
And so, well, Colton, you mentioned Eric Padron, and he does almost have 1,000 yards on the ground. When we're talking about a player to maybe take a look at who may be an X factor in that game, there's several coaches, if you ask around six-man, think that he may be one of the best six-man players in the entire state, and I believe he's only a junior. He's also got 1,318 yards passing on the year. So dual threat, and I know in six-man you're asked to do everything, but that dude is a boss. He could be an X factor in that Abbott game. And so we'll be looking, I can say when I'm looking at this bracket, and that's what I've got pulled up in front of me. If they win that game, they get Union Hill and Newcastle. Neither one of those are ranked in the top 10 in the state. And in the rest of their region, Blum, Coolidge, St. Joe, and Leverts. I know they lost to Blum. That's who won their district, Blum. That might be the best team that's left remaining. So if Abbott can get through, Avalon can get through Abbott, we may be looking at a team that could go 3-4 rounds deep. So that'll be interesting to watch. Before we move on, any other last tidbits, anybody on Avalon?
I just think it's going to be an exciting game. You know, six-man, it can change quick. You know, scoring happens a lot. So it can be either way. So I'd be expecting a good game from this one.
And so we're going to move on next to one of the better teams in the county, I guess on a person-per-person basis, and probably one of the best teams chances to go a long way remaining, and that's the Italy Gladiators. Italy is 8-2 on the year, 5-0 in district, back-to-back district champs, back-to-back undefeated district champs, and so they've got a pretty good chance going ahead. A couple of their wins dominated A-plus Academy, dominated Rice, dominated Mildred. If you'll go down the schedule and you look, most of their wins were just complete domination. Shut out Kearns. And then I think this is a big note going into the playoffs. Their last two district games against Cayuga and Dawson, they scored a total of, if I did my math correctly, 94 points and gave up a total of 0. Wow. And so they will take on Hamilton, who finished 4th in their district on Friday night. Tyler, I'll start with you. What do you think about the Italy Gladiators' chances?
I honestly really like Italy's chances to at least get to the third round of the postseason. One thing about Italy, you look at their 2 losses. One of those is to Mart. There is no shame in losing to Mart. I mean, they're the best team. They're in Division 2. Luckily, Mart's not in Division 1 here for 2A, so Italy doesn't have to see them. That third round game against Crawford is what I'm looking at. The Crawford Pirates, number 4 in the state. I mean, Crawford's an experienced team. They've been to several state title matchups. If Italy can pull off a win there against Crawford, the bracket really can open up at that point. They have a pretty good draw, if we're being honest, except for Crawford in that region. That's like the one game that I see being a real tester. But if this Gladiator team can beat Crawford in third round, I expect both teams to get there. I mean, watch out. It could be a big year for Italy if that happens.
Yeah. Same thing with Avalon. Italy's running back, Jaden Barr, might be the best 4A player in the nation. He can run the ball. I love Italy because they can just pound the rock over and over. I'm an offensive lineman, so I love running the ball. So, yeah, I love that kind of stuff from the Gladiators.
For me, I think even though Italy's won 2 back-to-back district championships, I still feel like they're a bit underrated, especially in this area. They're a big team, and they've got a lot of good players. They've obviously won a lot of games by a lot of points to a little points. So they just got to keep doing what they've been doing this whole season, and they should be fine rolling through these first couple rounds so they get some better competition.
Well, I think one thing that they're breeding down there in Italy is not only are they stout offensively running the ball, they're stout on defense. They got big boys up front on the defensive line. But what I like to say, and we've had them on several times, is they've got that double Jaden on offense. They've got Jaden Barr and Jaden Saxon, the quarterback, and that dude is a hoss in itself. You look at those kids and you're like, man, why aren't these guys playing 6A somewhere? But big boys, and I expected, like you said, Crawford's going to be the big challenge if they can make it 3 rounds deep, which I foresee that happening. And if they can do that, it should be full sail ahead to the state, at least the state semifinals. So, but we wish Italy Gladiators the best of luck. And we're going to move on now to the Maypearl Panthers. And guys, for the Maypearl Panthers, making the playoffs, it's huge. For Coach Reapy, we've had on the show, friend of the show, that's the goal. And the Panthers have done nothing but get better over the past couple seasons. That they went 5-4 overall on the year, 3-3 in district play. Again, they took on Clifton at Clifton and beat Grand Saline, like Life Oak Cliff, Madison, A+ Academy. The big thing that I want to say before we get to their playoff matchup is, and y'all can tell me if you agree or not, that district is tough.
No doubt.
You've got state-ranked West. You've got state-ranked Grandview. I mean, there's no, and even Whitney's a tough draw. That's a tough district. So to come out 3-3, they beat who they were supposed to get them in. And now we talk about the matchup. They draw state-ranked number 10, Malakoff. And so I don't know how easy it's going to be for the Panthers. What do you think, Peyton?
Yeah, so the good thing for them in this game is they've already played the good teams already, so they know what it's like competing with high teams in the state. Malakoff has a good offense. It's going to come down to if Maypearl can stop that offense for sure and have a great defensive game.
Yeah. Malakoff, I know last year, their last playoff game when they lost, they started the game and got punched in the mouth. And if Maypearl wins, I think they need to start hot, score a lot of points, create some turnovers, start getting the ball rolling early, and maybe that Malakoff team will start to fall down.
And Tyler, what are you thinking? And I know you cover quite a bit of teams. You get to see some bigger teams. You cover Red Oak quite a bit. You know, when you play good competition, that either sharpens iron sharpens iron, or you'll see teams fall off. Maypearl played tough competition. They stuck it through, made the playoffs. Do you think a round 1 win could propel them to go even deeper than just say, the second round?
Oh, I mean, if they beat Malakoff, then the sky's the limit. If you can get through that first game against a district champ like that, then the sky is the limit for how far you can go in the playoffs. And certainly when you're in one of those tough districts, that prepares you. And you see a lot in the high school playoffs. Some district champions fall in the opening round because they played maybe in a weaker district. Now, you did mention the Grandview in Maypearl's district. I do want to say the Zebras, one of my favorite mascots just all time here in the state of Texas. I love the Zebras. But, for Maypearl, it's going to be a daunting task. But this is the type of game when you're building a program, that you finally can get into that playoff field. You get the experience here, and you play with nothing to lose. And these are the type of games where, you can go out there and have a little fun, because all the stress is on Malakoff, because they're the ones that are expected to win this game.
And so it'll be interesting. Like I said, you get through Malakoff, Pottsboro or Tatum, they don't necessarily scare you the same way that Malakoff does. But that third round, you could get up against West again. In the first matchup, the Panthers had with West didn't go so well. They didn't score in that game. And so, but Panthers, Coach Sam Reapy, their squad, we wish them the best of luck. And we'll move on and hopefully they sneak that through. But we got another team that I think if you had to go in and power rank the teams as far as playoff chances, this one would have to be towards the top. And that is the Palmer Bulldogs, led by Coach Don Waddle. Palmer went 7-3 on the year, 6-0 in district. And then outside of last year, I think the previous 3 years before that, they had won district. Last year, they got second, I believe. Might have to go crunch my numbers on that one. But now they're back on top, district champs. If you're looking at their wins, Bosqueville, Rice, Mildred, Edgewood, Scurry Rosser, Blooming Grove, Gateway Charter Academy. They're not necessarily known for having the strongest district in 3A football, but Palmer knows how to put teams away. Peyton, starting with you, how do you think the Bulldogs' chances line up going into the playoffs?
Man, that offense is rolling. They have a quarterback, Elijah Hernandez, who has well over 1,300 yards passing, and that's huge for a small school like that. And it's hard-nosed football down there. They've also had over 29 points in pretty much all of their games except for a couple, which is huge. And yeah, it's just going to come down to if the defense can stop what they're doing and keep rolling on offense.
Yep. I'm an offensive guy, so don't take this to heart, defensive guys. I think offense is the key to winning state championships now. It's started to go away from defense, and Palmer puts up a lot of points. So they just keep putting up points. I think they'll do all right in the playoffs.
Tyler, what do you think?
I have to agree. I mean, offense is kind of now the name of the game. Can you score enough points to beat your opposition with how many points that they score? And when you have that quarterback that has the ability to really spread it out to throw, where there's a lot of teams that running the football is their bread and butter, and they don't want to rely on their quarterback to make those tosses. You have a quarterback that can make those throws when necessary. Gunter's a team in that region that kind of scares me going forward for Palmer, but outside of that, Palmer's got a good track in front of them to make some noise in the postseason.
Well, they've got Whitewright coming up. Whitewright was ended fourth in their district, 3-3, and they were a losing record overall at 4-6. And then you look at that next round, they got Callisburg and then Dublin. So you could see Palmer making it that third round, but that's where Gunter starts to rear its head, assuming they get through Scurry Rosser and either Millsap or Henrietta. But we're talking about offense, and offense does lead to championships more often than not these days. But one guy I do want to point out for Palmer, he's a sophomore, Mr. Cutter Burrow, 55 solo tackles on the year, 81 total, and he's got 5 sacks. And so while offense is the name of the game, they've got a young stud on defense, and he is getting after the quarterback, getting after the ball carriers. So don't look for just Palmer to run up the board. They're going to try to stop you, stuff you, and I think they got a good chance to do it. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes out from the Palmer Bulldogs. We're going to move on now. We're going to move over now to the Ferris Yellow Jackets. And Coach Stephen Greek, in his first season as head coach, has the Yellow Jackets back in the playoffs. 5-5 on the year, 2-2 in district play. Some notable wins. Benbrook, a team that we'll mention here as an opponent of one of our playoff teams. 43-13. They beat Farmersville. Godly, Venus, which, I mean, it's a running joke in around Ellis County about Venus, but we won't get into that. But they'll take on Sunnyvale, who is 5-5, 4-1 in district play, second in their district. Tyler, come to you first. I think the big note is Ferris did make the playoffs, and they did it within the last 3 weeks of losing their kind of phenom quarterback in Nathan Greek, son of Coach Greek, to injury. But those guys are in the playoffs. What do you think about the Yellow Jackets?
Well, it's a good accomplishment, I mean, to overcome that injury to make the playoffs, because that's just a blow to the morale of the team. Anytime you see an important player go down like that, it's always tough just to mentally, pick yourself back up again to go on and play. But Ferris has done a nice job and found a way to get into the postseason. Sunnyvale, a team that my company, Sportsgram Network, is part of our train of teams that we have that we broadcast for, and know the guys over at that crew very well. And Sunnyvale's a team that's mixed it up in a pretty good district. I mean, they lost to Quinlan Ford, but Sunnyvale's a team that can score a lot of points. And honestly, I'm torn between this game because on one hand, I love playing golf at the old Brickyard there in Ferris. It's such a great golf course. But on the other hand, I grew up in Mesquite right next door to Sunnyvale and have played tennis at those park courts many, many times in Sunnyvale. So I don't know who to choose in this one.
Well, maybe Colton, you can give us a little clarity. What do you like?
Yeah, for sure. So Sunnyvale, they have a lot of big physical offensive and defensive linemen. So Ferris, if they want to win the game, they have to win the trenches. So
for me, Ferris doesn't get a lot of opportunities to get in the playoffs, but this year they got in. I think a key player for this team is going to be the sophomore, Kai Rigdon. He's a tight end and middle linebacker, and this kid makes plays on both sides of the ball. Being 6'2" and about 225, I mean, you don't see that too much in those kind of schools. And this kid rolls, and he's going to be a big playmaker for the future.
So, well, if you look through kind of the next couple rounds, they get through Sunnyvale, you could have the winner of Liberty Ilo and Van. Liberty Ilo is usually always pretty tough. You also could have Gilmer, Mahia, Hillsborough, Caddo Mills. So it's not necessarily the toughest route, but there are some good football teams. And so we'll be interested to see what happens with those Ferris Yellow Jackets. Just, I think, a fun note, doesn't necessarily pertain to this year's playoffs, but they get Nathan Greek another year. And that dude is a baller, and he's going to end up somewhere. But Ferris back, this may be the first of a good run for the Ferris Yellow Jackets here over the next couple of years. And so and I will say to Tyler's comment that I've lost many a ball at the Brickyard. And so I think a lot of people have. And so I'm on
pause. Nasty wind out there at the Brickyard. It's a nasty wind.
It is. It is. And I will say it's always in great shape come the fall, but the summer it's hard as a rock. Yeah. And so but, old Bricktown, the Brickyard, we wish the Yellow Jackets the best of luck. The Midlothian Heritage Jaguars. Now, if anybody's from this area, you know that since the Jags came into inception, they've made the playoffs, and they've done nothing but get better and better and better. And so they went 7-3, 3-2 in district. They ran into a little hiccup. La Vega, Stephenville, both state-ranked teams in this district, took them down. They played Melissa early in the year, non-district. That's another state-ranked team. They played a tough schedule, but the Jags are right where they need to be, taking on, and if you'll forgive me, let me turn my page, taking on Benbrook once the playoffs begin. Tyler, I'll go to you first. Midlothian Heritage. They seem always up to the challenge. They lost a lot of people on that line. How do you like the Jags heading into the postseason?
Normally in the playoffs, when it's a team that is not the number 1 or 2 from their district, you look at them and you say, well, they're not going to be able to make a deep push. So rarely do teams that are not favorites make a deep run in the postseason. But Midlothian Heritage, I honestly believe, is one of these teams that can possibly make a deep run. Their quarterback, Caitlyn Brown, I mean, this dude is the life of this offense. I mean, he does everything. He's close to that 1,000-yard rushing season as well as throwing for 2,000 yards. I mean, this guy can really lift a team in a postseason game. And those games against Stephenville and La Vega were all really close. It came down to some turnovers that cost Midlothian Heritage the win. If they clean up the turnovers, they're a team that can make a big push, because that rematch against Melissa in the second round, I mean, Melissa's had an incredible year and knocked off Argyle. They've been firing at all cylinders. Obviously, Midlothian Heritage already played Melissa this season, and they lost by 20. But in that game, it was back and forth in the first half, very even, but just a couple turnovers, and Melissa catching fire in the second half won that game for Melissa. So Heritage, I believe the state champ is going to come from this region too, here in 4A Division I, because it is just loaded with teams. And you got Heritage, you have Melissa, La Vega, Argyle's over there, Stephenville's over there. These are 5 teams that can beat any team in this state. And so for Midlothian Heritage, they've got a good opportunity in that second round. If they can catch fire, if they limit the turnovers, they'll be able to make some noise.
And so, Peyton, sliding over to you. I know when you look at that, they got Benbrook, and the only common opponent they have was Kennedale. Kennedale won that district Benbrook's in and beat them 63-0. And Heritage took care of Kennedale, second game of the year, 22-7. And so you got to feel pretty good. What's your take on the Jags?
So actually, first off, for Benbrook, I actually covered them last week with their game versus Kennedale. So I kind of got a little game to see what they're up to this year. They only had one offensive possession past the 50-yard line. And the reason because of that was because of 5 third-down penalties. Their offense can draw penalties, and that's going to be a big play for Heritage. If they can stay away from the penalties and stay strong on defense, they can put up some points against this team.
Yeah, how he watched Benbrook, I watched Heritage last week, and I actually got to interview Coach Wigginton after the game. And he was talking about, just like Tyler said, stopping those turnovers. They have to not put the ball on the ground. When they played Stephenville, they drove all the way down the field twice and gave up 2 long defensive touchdowns. They lost by 11 points. So if you take those away, they probably win that game. So,
well, Tyler, I'll come back to you. And you mentioned Caitlyn Brown, and that has been the life of the offense. I mean, when you're racking up almost 3,000 yards yourself between passing and rushing, you're doing something right. Is it going to be a problem? And I don't want to just throw Benbrook away. I would pick Midlothian Heritage to win that game. But when you do get Melissa in the next round, assuming they take care of North Dallas, you've already played them once. Is it a little concern, do you think, that they're going to try to take Caitlyn Brown out of it? And is it easier said than done, or is there something else that Heritage might can do?
My philosophy when it comes to high school football, with all the games that I've seen, is all you need is a good quarterback. And you can have sometimes the defense can overwhelm a team, but as long as you have an offensive line, and these two gentlemen next to you know what that's about, being on the offensive line, as long as you have a good offensive line and get good blocking, all you need is a great quarterback to take over a game. Because if you give him time to throw, if you create those running lanes for him, it doesn't matter what the defense brings sometimes. Having one guy that is just a stud athlete can be enough for a lot of teams. And I think it's up to Heritage's offensive line. Can they win this game in the trenches? Because Melissa does bring a good pass rush. I mean, they can get after the quarterback. I don't remember the score off the top of my head, but I believe they shut out Argyle in that win that they had earlier this year. And then that was just a really impressive win for Melissa. But if Heritage does win this game, it'll be because of Caitlyn Brown. But it also, I think, could be if your defense can cause a couple turnovers. Can you get to the Melissa quarterback and get a key third down sack when you need to get off the field? Those are the type of plays in those type of games. And got to take care of Benbrook first, of course. You know, you cannot overlook them. But Heritage is a team that they easily could have been the district champs this year in their district if a couple bounces of the football go their way.
And then I'm looking at the bracket right now for Region 2. And like you said, Stephenville, Kennedale, you might mix in there, Argyle, Melissa, Heritage, Carter, La Vega. I mean, my goodness, I think, Tyler, you might be spot on where there's more than likely a state champion coming out of this region. But I think if Heritage can get through Melissa, it sucks because it's not like you get through that and then there's never a game off. But you know what? You get through a tough team, like you said, you might have a game or two until you run into another powerhouse. They get through Melissa, they could end up having to turn around and play La Vega. They get through La Vega, they have to turn around and play Stephenville or Argyle, and it's going to be tough. But we wish them the best of luck. I don't know if we're picking them to make it to state, but I think the first step, getting through Benbrook, but getting over that Melissa hump could help propel them that way. And so y'all guys got anything to add before we move on?
Yeah, I think Midlo Heritage is one of the best special teams groups in all the state. You know, they can start winning the special teams battle, especially against the big teams, the powerhouse teams. They'll have a good shot at winning.
I like that. I like that, Colton. We don't give special teams near enough love.
Not at all. All three phases.
And so we're going to move on next. And there's a lot of people that if you gave them this list of playoff teams in Ellis County, they're going to pick this team right here with the best odds to win state. And that's not just this year. that's on a year-in, year-out basis, and that is the Ennis Lions. All right. Excuse me. Ennis Lions 10-0 on the year, 7-0 in district play. Now, they went undefeated last year as well, and they got booted a little earlier than I think they would have liked to back with that team led by Colin Drake. But this year, they beat Red Oak, and Tyler can speak on that. Red Oak, I don't think, lived up to the potential that it had coming into the season. But they took care of Waxahachie on an overtime, going for 2. They beat Greenville, Sulphur Springs, North Forney, Crandall, and then Forney. They take on Denison to open up the playoffs. Denison 5-3, coming out of a pretty good district with Liberty, with Frisco, and with Lovejoy. So to get 4th at 5-3 in that district is pretty impressive. But I think we all expect the Ennis Lions to take care of business. Peyton, I'm going to come to you first. Is it a cause for concern for the Lions that while, yes, they're undefeated, yes, they went through District 7-0, the level of competition might not be to what some of these other 5A schools are playing?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of good 5A schools in here, and all these games they can be coin flip games throughout the year. It doesn't matter who you're playing. I think they started the year off great, especially versus Waxahachie, a 6A team, setting the tone for the season, saying, hey, we're here, we're going to play against all the good teams, and we're going to win. And they got a good running back in D. Johnson, has over 1,000 yards rushing. He's just rolling through the game right now. It should be a good game.
Yeah, I think the key to Ennis winning is setting up that run game. D. Johnson a couple of weeks ago had over 300 yards rushing.
He set the school record with that,
school
too.
record. So if they can get that rolling and open up for the freshman wide receiver Grayson Harris, which is unbelievable. He might be a top player in the nation when he's a senior. I think they can have a good chance of beating all these teams.
Well, Tyler, you've been around, and Coach Harrell seems to turn out quarterbacks. Jackson Gilkey was state-ranked quarterback until Colin Drake moved in, and so he had to sit there for 2 years while Mr. Drake took care of business. How do you think Mr. Gilkey's going to handle it, and what do you see from Ennis in the playoffs?
Well, of course, I did see Ennis week 1 of the season when they beat Red Oak 56-42. Gosh, that was a fun game, by the way. That was just points galore in that one. And Jackson Gilkey, what impressed me about him is he just has great strength in the pocket. He's a hard guy to sack, so he extends plays a lot downfield. And it's not a pass-happy offense in Ennis. They're well-balanced because they have D. Johnson, because they have a lot of weapons. And let me tell you, when I saw this freshman on the depth chart, Grayson Harris, going that game, and of course, that was his first varsity game, and I see this guy take his first 2 varsity touches to the end zone for touchdowns. I mean, this guy is going to be fun for 3 more years to watch there for Ennis. I mean, what a player, what a find there. Coach Harrell just has to be thanking everybody up in heaven for delivering him a freshman wide receiver like that to work with for a few years. But, Ennis, there's a lot of people that say because of the district they're in that maybe they're going to be one of those teams that's knocked off early like they were last year. And that was a big shock. But, Timberview is a team that they could play again in the second round. And last year, Timberview had a good quarterback that knew how to run that kind of Army, Navy style of running offense that really gave Ennis a lot of fits. Can Timberview cause a similar upset this year? I don't know. But Ennis, being number 3 in the state, they have all the weapons they need to make a deep run, but they will, be facing some challenges. Lovejoy is a potential round 3 opponent for them. In round 4, it doesn't get easier because you have potentially Liberty, potentially Frisco, potentially Aledo or South Oak Cliff. I mean, there's a lot of great teams in this region too, but the Ennis Lions, they have the state pedigree. They have the coaching advantage in almost every game that they play in. And Ennis is a team that they can put up points, and their defense has improved as we've gone later in the season. That game against Roy City, to me, was the test to see where Ennis is at this point of the year. And holding the Bulldogs to just 20 points and scoring 48 themselves, that's the type of game that makes me know, Ennis is ready for the playoffs, and don't sleep on the line.
That Roy City game you brought up, the week before, Roy City put over 700 yards of total offense on the board, and I believe Ennis held them to just somewhere around 300. So if you tune in to Down Home Sports, you get the coverage. We talked to Coach Harrell last week, and that's one of the things he talked about was the consistency of the defense. You look at the numbers, they don't have anybody that just jumps out on the page of, hey, this is our stud. But what they do have is a team that knows how to tackle. knows how to run their coverage and just hold teams. Kind of that bend but don't break mentality. They're not going to wow you, but they're going to hold them. I'm going to read some numbers for these guys. I know we touched on a couple of them. Jackson Gilkey, 2,085 yards on the season, 20 TDs to just 4 interceptions. We brought up D. Johnson, senior, 11 TDs on the year, 987 yards. And so, like you said, over 300 of those came from that last game where he set the record. I think it was Royce City that he put up those numbers. And so Grayson Harris, again, the freshman, 1,148 yards, 10 TDs. We got 2 guys that I do want to bring up on defense. We've got Edgar Gabriola, 116 tackles, 1 sack, 7 hurries, and Eric Gonzalez, 128 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 interception. So they've got playmakers. I just think back to 2 years ago when we had Ennis and we had Aledo go to overtime, and everybody said at the end of that game said, Sam, you should have went for 2 to not even send it to overtime. But I think if everything goes right, we could be looking at an Ennis-Aledo rematch in that regional finals, which I think would be fun to watch. And so before we move on, any final notes from you guys on Ennis? Any predictions or anything?
I'd like to say something else. They're 10-0, obviously. A lot of teams nowadays get big-headed when they get these kind of records, 9-1, 10-1. They win a lot of district games, and they get knocked out early. And, I mean, that makes your regular season look really bad when you lose the first, second round of the game. And even though they've got a bunch of hard opponents coming up, they've got to keep their composure and understand that they can go out just as fast as any of these other teams are.
Yeah, I think Denison can run the ball very well. So if they can stop that running game and just make them pass the ball, they have a good shot at winning that game.
All right, we're going to move on to our next school, the second, could be third, depending on who you ask, largest school in the county, and that is the Midlothian Panthers. The team that runs the option and the veer like nobody else's business, Midlothian Panthers. 6-4 on the season, 5-2 in district play, which I didn't think a lot of people saw coming. But they are in the playoffs. They get to match up first round against Brewer, who they played early on in the year, lost 23-20. And we may talk about that game a little more in depth in a minute. But Peyton, start with you. The Panthers in the playoffs. What do you like about the Doug Wendell-led Panthers?
Man, this offense is just hard to stop. It's not something you see every week, and you really have to spend more time than 1 week to try to prepare for this offense, especially with a kid named Diego Benson they've got back there toting the rock. He plays every play with 100% effort. And, Tyler, we were at the Red Oak game together, and Diego Benson on the last play of the second half ran for like a 76-yard touchdown run, which was a big play to help them win that game. And, yeah, it's just going to be a good game. I cannot wait to watch this game.
Yeah. I think Midlothian's key is their defense. They stopped a high-powered offense in Colleyville to only 10 points. So they can do that in the playoffs. They look like they're going to have a good run.
Well, Tyler, you got to watch them play Red Oak. I'm sure you've seen them play a couple other times. What do you think about the Panthers?
Seen a lot of Midlothian Panthers football here over the years, and from my opinion, one of the best stadiums in high school football. I love their setup over there. Diego Benson, this kid is incredible. I love this running back. As a sophomore, he looked incredible. He's looked just as good, if not better, here in his junior season. And he's a low to stop. He's around 200 pounds, so he is a tough guy who will wear down a defense throughout the game. But I do think it's Midlothian's defense that sets them apart from some of these other teams that run the veer and run the option, because they have that ability to really shrink the game even more, so to speak, because not only will they take a long time sometimes to score, take a lot of time off the clock, but if they can get you into a 3-and-out, get the ball right back, then your defense, which is already worn out, has to go right back out and face them again. And that's how Midlothian kind of can really gut punch some teams in the second half. And a lot of teams actually in this Region 1, because I've seen a lot of Region 1 football here lately with Red Oak having that deep playoff run last season. A lot of teams run the option. A lot of teams run the veer. You know, you have Burleson Centennial in the same district as Midlothian. You have Amarillo Tascosa is going to run that same offense. Amarillo, I believe, runs that same offense as well. So there's a lot of teams that might have some familiarity with the system, but can they do it as well as Midlothian can? I mean, that's the question. And as we saw last year with Mansfield Summit being the 4th seed from this district, going all the way to the state semis, and oh, by the way, had it not been for some COVID rules, that could have been Midlothian as that 4th seed to make that run. I mean, this is a Midlothian team that can, for sure, I think someone from 4 or 5A will get out of Region 1 and go to the state semis. Probably at that point lose to a Den Ryan, a Highland Park, a College Station, whoever ends up coming out of that region too, because that region is just so loaded with such good teams. But I mean, Midlothian, a state semifinal appearance is not near out of the question. I would favor Mansfield Summit myself. I think their defense is better just slightly, and their offense is a little better slightly because David Hopkins can do a lot of things. But I think Midlothian's a team that can make some noise in the postseason, at least get to that 3rd round matchup with Summit. And if they can turn that result around from the regular season, state semis is right within Midlothian's grasp.
I think one thing to note on this matchup, the first time that Brewer and Midlothian played, again, it was, I believe, the first game of the season. But one thing, too, is Midlothian had 7 false start penalties against Brewer in that game. And we know penalties kill, but 7 false starts, that'll stop almost any drive in and of itself. And I think a key note is that Midlothian moved their left guard, who was playing left guard in that game with those false starts. He has recently been moved to more of a tight end blocking role, which has kind of helped the nerves up on the offensive line. And so this could be a totally different game than we saw before, but just 23-20, I don't think it's one of those games that you can go in and just say, hey, Brewer is clearly the advantage. Brewer clearly holds the line. I don't think you can do that. Even though Brewer was 6-1 in district, it was a 3-way tie at 6-1, and they just kind of got shuffled down to the 3 seed. But Tyler, before we move on, I guess I want to ask, you said a couple of these teams do run the veer here in Region 1 with Burleson Centennial. But from your experience, how weird is it? Because, that used to be the norm. And then everybody came out with the air raid, and in high school, they were like, well, what are we doing to stop this? And then now it's almost reverted back to where people show up with the veer, and they're like, well, what are we doing to stop this? Do you feel like that could play to some advantage?
Absolutely, against teams that are unprepared for it. I mean, it takes a lot. It's a lot of discipline to play defense against that style of offense. You got to fit your gaps well because the blocking's going to be there. Midlothian, over the years, drilled one after another after another. So these offensive linemen know what they're doing. They can push just about anybody out of the way because they have this down to a science. So that's why it's so tough to stop, is because a lot of the holes are going to be quite large that this Midlothian offensive line opens up. And then when they can't open up a large hole, you have Diego Benson, who's 200 pounds, who can fit his way through those holes. And once he gets the corner, that you're not going to catch that guy. So that's why Midlothian, I think, has a great shot, and it's going to be tough to stop him. Brewer, of course, like every game's going to be tough for Midlothian in this region. There's not going to be a cakewalk game. Brewer obviously is going to be tough. Second round, Lubbock Coronado, they aren't the same team that they were last year when they played Red Oak in a thrilling double overtime victory for Red Oak in that game. But Coronado, they lost a quarterback who's going to Mississippi State. They lost their head coach who moved there as well, but still a good Coronado squad that will be difficult. But Midlothian will certainly have their opportunities as long as they take care of the football. The one thing that can beat that type of offense is fumbling. That's the only thing that can beat it, really.
I think in the first game when they played Brewer, they only had 6 points in the second half. So Midlothian has to play all 4 quarters to beat this team. And if they do, I think they have a good shot against Coronado. They started out the year 0-3, but they won 7 in a row, including a dominant win over Amarillo Tascosa. So that could be a very good game in the second round if they make it.
And one more thing from Midlothian is they have a way tougher district than what Brewer's got to go through every week. So they've got to pound it every single week, and they've got to push out hard wins. I think that's going to be an advantage for them. Brewer might not have the strength of the schedule that they have, and I think that'll be a good advantage for Midlothian.
I think you'll be hard-pressed, even around Ellis County or anywhere, to find a team as physical as Midlothian. And like Tyler, you kind of alluded to earlier, that's pounded in them from junior high football on. That is a very, very physical team. So if they lose, it's not going to be because they didn't try to pound the crap out of you. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to move on to our last team in the district, a team that has had its playoff woes since moving up to 6A. but this is now the second year in a row that the Waxahachie Indians have found themselves back in the playoffs. Last year, there was some weird COVID stuff. They did find their way in. This year, straight up just fourth in the district. They went 6-4 on the year. And when we did our preseason predictions, I believe I went 5-5. I thought it was going to be hard pressed to even find 5 wins in this schedule in this district. They went 5-5 or 6-5. Not only that, or 6-4. I'm sorry. Not only that, 4-3 in district, a positive winning record in district play under first-year head coach Shane Tollison. Run down some of their wins. Rowlett start the season. Lamar. They did have that double overtime loss on a 2-point conversion to Ennis, but they turned that right back around and beat Midway, beat Lake Ridge, beat Mansfield, and beat Waco. The 4 teams that if you do want a chance in this district, you have to beat. Before we get on to their matchup, I think one thing to note, and y'all can add in on this, is even though they lost to Duncanville 52-3, it was a 3-0 game at halftime. They lost to Cedar Hill, another state-ranked team, 14-10. They lost to DeSoto 31-25 with a goal line stand at the end of the game to go to tie it. This Waxahachie team has proved resilient. It's proved that its defense can play. What has impressed you guys the most? Colton, I'll start with you about this Waxahachie team under Shane Tollison, his first year as head coach to go into the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I think their offense can do so many different things, and that's a very hard for the defense to be able to stop doing so many things, running the ball well, passing the ball well. And then I think a key player for me is Keith Abney. He plays both ways in a lot of special teams, and he is good at every position he does. So I think if they can get him the ball and maybe he can stop some of the Temple's players, they'll be off pretty good.
For me, the running back duo, Iverson Young and Jaden Becks, man, these kids can run the ball up and down people's throat all day. They run the 2-back set and they roll wherever they want to go and they get their yardage. But yeah, they played some hard teams, some of the best defenses in the nation this season again, and that is only going to help them. They play good first halves usually every time, but their second halves usually they kind of slow down. So if they can pull together 4 quarters for the rest of the season, they have a chance to run it.
Tyler, what do you think about the Indians?
Well, Seth, I'm very familiar with 2 of these Waxahachie players, and we've heard their names already. Iverson Young and Keith Abney, they both came from Red Oak, and last season, Iverson Young was a key part of the Red Oak Hawks making the state quarterfinals. And I love this kid. He is a hard runner. This guy attacks the hole. He is very difficult to stop in open space, and it's been great to see him have a great season. It's great to see Keith have a great season, leading the team in receiving yards and receptions this year. And Red Oak had a very crowded wide receiver room, and for Keith to go to kind of be the number 1 guy there in the receiving corps for Waxahachie, it's great to see him flourish. This is a Waxahachie team, though, overall, they're a little perplexing, aren't they? They can, kind of outplay number 2 Duncanville in the first half of their game, and then had that lopsided second half result in favor of the Duncanville Panthers. They gave up that weird 21-point third quarter to Waco Midway earlier in the season, but still hung on to get that victory. And they've played DeSoto and Cedar Hill awfully tight. Could have easily won either of those games. So it's a dangerous team, Waxahachie. Dangerous first-round game. I'm looking at the bracket, and Temple is always a team that you have to be aware of in the high school football playoffs, and it's going to be in Temple. And they have a great home field advantage there. So Waxahachie, it's going to be a very difficult first-round matchup for them, but they know they can play with any team. I do think I'm looking at Rockwall Heath in the second round, which will guaranteed be the opponent. I saw Heath already this year that when they defeated Red Oak. They're a team that is 5th in the state. They could easily win a state title this year. They have D1 players all over their offense, from running back to receivers, their quarterback. Rockwall Heath is going to be the massive test if Waxahachie can get by Temple, but they cannot even assume that they're going to get past this first round because Temple is a quality opponent. It's going to be Waxahachie's going to really have to dig deep to win any game they play in the playoffs, but they know they've been battle testing their district. So this is a Waxahachie team that I do have faith it can make some noise in playoffs and possibly cause an upset or 2.
Well, if you look at it, they did play Temple last year in the playoffs as well and got beat 38-0. Now it was a different team. It was a different coach team. This Waxahachie team, I think we can all agree, is a little different this year. And that foundation started a couple years ago. But one thing I think we've all touched on it and may make this game a little different. Temple, they don't really have I would say as strong a district. It's hard to find as strong of a district as Waxahachie has with Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill. Even Midway is always good and challenging. And so, but Temple, if you look at their schedule, and I can pull it up, but they literally beat the brakes off of everybody they played. And the district was not very strong, but they will put up points. And so, Waxahachie, you have played teams that do score, and you've held them. But at the same time, have we seen them put a complete four quarters together? I'm not sure. And so it'll be very interesting to see. I just, like you said, we look at this. You get through Temple, okay, you play Rockwall Heath, who could have had the game of the year of cross country against Rockwall earlier this year. Okay, you get through there, then you might get Cypress Park. You get through there, and then you get College Park, you get Cedar Hill, you get Bryant. I know you come from a tough district, but you guys may add on to it. It's 6A football in Texas. You're in the playoffs. It's not easy there is no easy game from round one to a state championship. And that's going to be some tough games to see if you're Waxahachie.
Yeah. So, going back off of you with the scoring for Temple, they won multiple games by 60 points, including, I'm pretty sure they played Copper's Cove, and it was 77-12 last week. So it could be a high-scoring game, and that'd be a game that I'd be interested in watching. So it could be 70-65. For me, one last thing, 6A football draws the biggest crowds, and sometimes even more than college teams in Texas. There's going to be a lot of people there, and especially in Temple for Waxahachie fans have to come out there and give them support because, believe it or not, fans actually do help the teams play. Especially like when you're on a big play, the teams are yelling, banging on the bleachers. It does help, creates penalties, and that's very beneficial to teams. So Waxahachie fans, and even all fans from the Ellis County, go support your teams.
And my last note will be, and fans of Waxahachie and Midlothian know this pretty well, they're teams that have bounced up and down over the years based on enrollment from 5A to 6A back and forth. And playing against some of these juggernaut 6A teams that have way more enrollment, you're always the underdog in those scenarios. So it's really impressive what Waxahachie has done this season with how they fought against teams like Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Duncanville, these big schools that have just lots of success in recent memory in 6A. And so it means a little bit more. I feel like getting these playoff wins at 6A, or even versus 5A for Waxahachie and Midlothian when they were up there in 6A, because they've had some hard seasons. But it's all worth it when you have seasons like this where you make the postseason. If you can get a win or two, a notch under your belt, that's stuff that just makes everybody in the community extremely excited, extremely proud.
Well, I'm going to run down this list one more time of the playoff teams here in Ellis County, and then we'll go around the room kind of as a last note. Pick the team you think's got the best chance that may go the farthest, and then any notes that you guys want to highlight before we get out of here. But one more time from Ellis County: Ovilla Christian, Avalon, Italy, Maypearl, Palmer, Ferris, Midlothian Heritage, Ennis, Midlothian, and Waxahachie. And the only state ranked one out of that group is Ennis at number 3. And so, Colton, I'll come to you first. Any final notes on this list of teams and who you think is going to go the furthest?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone here is going to say Ennis, but my sleeper state championship is going to be Midlo Heritage. If they can limit those mistakes, they can make it through this region. And if they make it through the region, they got a good shot at winning state. So, yeah.
Well, one thing again over the Ellis County teams, football is becoming a lot bigger of a thing here. They're definitely on the rise. You have 10 teams. When was the last time we've seen 10 teams from Ellis County make it to the playoffs? So, yeah, it should be an exciting playoffs. My sleeper team, I guess they're not really sleepers, but it would be Italy. I think it's their time. They've won a lot of games. They've won a lot of seasons, and it's their time to show what they can do, and they just have to put their foot down and get there.
For me, the odds would say Ennis is the team that has the best shot at winning a state title, and I can't disagree with that. If anybody other than Mansfield Summit was in the path of Midlothian, I would say Midlothian gets to state semifinals, no problem, because I think both Summit and Midlothian, in my opinion, slightly better than Colville Heritage. Even though Midlothian lost that game to Heritage, I think they're a slightly better team when they're on their A game. I'm gonna double up on Italy. I think they're a team that has a shot. I think they can beat Crawford and then go all the way to the state title game, perhaps. New Deal might be a team that they'd have to face, later on. But I like Italy's chances to make a little run here this year.
I'm glad you guys said Italy, because I was afraid they weren't going to be said. That was going to be mine. So I'm not going to take them. But just fun fact, Italy went undefeated last year, and they were bounced in the second round, and that was very upsetting because Coach Horn, those guys were looking to go to the state semifinals, and it got ended short. So that might be a little fuel to the fire for Italy. I know we all would like to say Ennis, and I think Ennis has a great shot. One thing I'd like to see, I'm with Colton, I think Heritage, but I think Palmer. I don't know if Palmer is quite there to win it yet, but I think with the playoff bracket from the region they're in, if they can get through a couple games, Palmer might be a team that you can see make a run. When you're talking 3A, it does take a team, but it takes a few standouts. And like we talked about earlier, Palmer does have those weapons. They do have those guys if they can just push through. So I would look at Palmer as maybe a team to make a deep playoff run. But either way, it's going to be fun stuff to watch. It gives you guys stuff to write about. Tyler, I know you're going to be enjoying calling these games. And so I appreciate y'all taking time out of your evenings to sit down with us, go over this playoff preview. It's been a blast. And hopefully we get to do this again. But for Down Home Sports, I got Peyton, Colton, opposite, turn that around. I'm looking in the camera here. We got Peyton and Colton here with the Dallas Morning News. And then Tyler again, play-by-play with Sportsgram. Thank y'all so much, and we cannot wait. It is playoff football time here in Texas.
Are you hungry for the best burgers, fries, and pizza in Ellis County? Well, stop by Doe City Pizza and Burgers, where the ingredients are fresh every day and stacked up just the way you like it. Custom seasoned fries and burgers right off the grill on in-house fresh homemade buns. So head on down to Doe City Pizza and Burgers, where everything there is delicious. Doe City Pizza and Burgers is located in Red Oak, Texas, right across from Red Oak High School. Make sure you come down and have the best burgers and service in Ellis County. Well, guess what, Ellis County? We got Midlothian Heritage Swim. Okay, we got the coach. We got Caitlyn Brown. We got Cade Carrasco. Coach, talk about your team this year. And it seems like y'all have had about 3 meets thus far. And it seems like your team's picking up where they started last year.
Yeah, so far we started out well. Just kind of getting in the groove of racing and what I feel like. We've had some good meets early on, going to some good pools to get some good times early on. We've got some young kids that are learning how to swim at a competitive level, and I think they're going to help us out in terms of giving us a little bit of depth as a team. So that'll give us some relays and kind of build up our girls team, and give us a little bit more options going into districts and regionals. And then, our more developed, our older swimmers, like Kayleen, Cade, Jackson, they're just kind of setting the standard for those younger kids and leading by example. And hopefully we'll keep putting it together. Swim's a long season. So we're kind of hitting that midway point. We got our big meet coming up in about 2 weeks. We're going to go to Texarkana. So it's a TISCA meet, which is a kind of the mid-season point for us, and I'm excited to see we swim and how fast we get going on that, man.
Awesome. Well, Kayleen, let's talk about how many calories are burned up in a week. This always fascinates me. I'm sure y'all lean on your strength conditioning coach a lot, but you almost have to have a nutritionist. How much are y'all having to eat to stay competitive at these events and these meets?
I mean, it's a lot. I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely trying to get all the fuel you need is definitely a whole thing in itself. But and I'm sure the guys have different needs than me, but yeah, it's quite a gotta keep up. Kind of hard to keep up with all that, but yeah.
Well, sticking with you, Caitlyn, I know y'all have practices and stuff, but is this not a sport where you've got to get out and do your own work as well?
I think that kind of is up to the swimmer and kind of their priorities, how they view it. Some are really serious about it and, have goals and want to make it a state. I think it depends on your priorities and how far you want to go. I definitely like to consider my nutrition and my own personal activity. I think it's all important, especially when you have long-term goals in mind for, your swim season and goals and all of that. So.
Well, Cade, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a senior, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but being a senior, y'all have done a great job there at Midlothian Heritage with the swim team over the years, being a young program and everything. Talk about where you want to leave this program as a senior, from a perspective, how you are going to leave your mark as a senior class.
Well, I think a lot of the seniors this year, we're focusing on helping the underclassmen learn what to do, learn their ways throughout this program, because whenever you just join in, you haven't really swam at all, it's kind of hard just to pick up what you're supposed to do without any help. So we've been really helping our coach with helping some of the younger kids, because a lot of them don't really understand what they're doing sometimes. So hey, do this, do it this way. This will help you out a lot. This will help you drop time. Because our coach having to manage as many people as he has, it can be a lot.
Well, Coach, go ahead, Caitlyn.
Out of that, when we first were freshmen and the swim team was a year and two old, we were very fortunate with seniors and juniors who were really talented in swim, and we've all had known each other from previous years, just with our club and summer leagues. So they kind of helped us create a good swim environment, and they really got us motivated and encouraged us and inspired us. And now I think since they're kind of gone and we are the older ones now, it's really important, especially since we don't really have, we have more new people. It's important for us to kind of encourage them and show them, like you said, the ropes of leading the swim team.
Well, Coach, does it not make it easy on you when you have senior leadership like this that's willing to step up, that's willing to help out, that's willing to take, those extra things on?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing, I think that's kind of, as a coach, that's kind of what you have to do, is kind of set yourself up to have good leadership within your program with your kids. If you can establish that and get that going, you're going to have some long-term success. And it's going to happen a lot quicker with your younger kids, because they're going to see it from the top down. And, that really helps me out in terms of, I'm not having to worry about how my younger kids are getting led, because I know that my seniors are going to take care of it, and they do a good job. So so far, super proud of them, and they keep doing a great job for us.
Well, Coach Meager, just real quick, there's a reason that you bring certain people on the show. We don't tell them who to bring on anybody out there. If you want to know, we let the coaches decide. But just talk about each one of these individuals and what they've meant to the program over the last 4 years.
Well, I'll start with Caitlyn. Caitlyn, she's a senior. She's been swimming for, I guess, since she was a freshman. So for Heritage High School, and she's kind of our leader on the girls' side. She's the most experienced swimmer we've got. In the past, she's swam the 100 and 200 freestyle for us, and she does a great job with those races. And she's very approachable, and she does a great job in terms of kind of getting the girls on all in a group and everything like that. And so she does a really good job on that front. Cade is can kind of do it all for us. The only thing he hasn't about swim is the 500, and that might be coming sometime soon. I don't know. We'll see. But he's a great kid. You know, very well spoken, very easygoing, and just kind of, you know, someone that's really good for all of our kids to be around, and you know, helps give swim at Heritage High School a good look and a good you know, I guess morale and perspective to other people.
Awesome. Well, Caitlyn, what's your favorite event and why?
I think my favorite event is the 200 freestyle. I used to not really like it, but I think Coach Meager has really pushed me to kind of make that my main event, or encouraged me to do that, especially last year. It's just a tough event. I don't think a lot of people swim it. It's like kind of a mid-distance. It's not 100, it's not a sprint. It's still a sprint, but it's also not super long distance. It's just a tough event to keep a stamina up and kind of a pace. You really have to learn how to do that to have the strength to keep going. It's kind of like the 800 in track. You know, a lot of people burn out quick. You know, you just have to learn figure out your strategy. But I think it's really good because it challenges me, and I never thought I would be wanting to swim the 200 freestyle as my main event, but here I am, and it's fun.
Awesome. Okay, what about you, bud?
I'd say my favorite event is the 200 IM. Kind of like what Caitlyn was saying, it is more of a mid-distance event. I think my favorite part about it is that you get to swim all 4 strokes. So over the first 2 years, I struggled to find a stroke that I felt comfortable swimming and that I was good at. So whenever Coach Meager came to our program, I was like, hey, I want to try this out. And I did try it, and I really enjoyed it. I'd say it's a good way. I hate the 200 freestyle, so I was like, let me try the 200 IM. So it's a really good way for me to practice all my strokes at once, and then really test myself on each one and see how fast I can go in each 50 of the stroke.
Wow. I mean, you got to change up that much. That's crazy. I mean, what does that do to your muscle groups? You got to be impacting so many when you're doing, 4 different disciplines. How many muscle groups are you hitting?
Honestly, I can't name each one that I'm hitting, but it does change because you swim 50 a fly, then you swim 50 backstroke, 50 breaststroke, and then 50 freestyle. Each one incorporates different muscles of each group and stuff like that.
That's just insane, man. In my brain, all I know I am is buoyant. Okay, that's about it. So, well, Caitlyn, we're going to hit you back up real quick. Talk about Coach Meager and what he's meant to the program and you as an individual.
Yeah, I think having Coach Meager come into our program last year was just something we're all super grateful for. He's super connected with all the kids, and he just wants to see us do well. And he brings, he just pushes us to because he knows our ability, and I don't know, he's just super impactful and on the swim team, helping us grow, helping us get faster, stronger, and doing things outside of our normal practices. So I think it's been really great to have a coach that obviously cares, and it gets us farther.
Awesome. Okay, what about you and your relationship with Coach Meager?
Over the past almost 2 years, it's been awesome having him as our coach. It definitely is nice for our school to have our own coach. And so he's been really helpful with all of us, understanding of all of our situations, and if we have an issue, he can help us with it. He's been an awesome coach with practices, stuff like that. They've been a lot tougher, and it's been helping us get a lot faster.
Yeah, he's super understanding. I'd just like to add that he's super understanding in whatever your situation is. If that's an injury or if that's, personal problems, family issues, he's just very understanding. And I don't think that's something you see in a lot of coaches. A good coach is willing to work with their athletes, and a lot of coaches would just push, their kids to the limit, and they don't really try to understand. But if you are, you give your coach everything, and they will give back, So I really have appreciated that.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, you've got the first 3 meets in. You've done pretty darn good in them thus far. Getting feet wet as it might be, pardon the pun. But what are you looking for over the next couple meets for the team to improve on, make some adjustments with? Are you looking at some different relay combinations? What's going on with all that?
Yeah, so our next meet coming up is our big mid-season meet. So we're just kind of seeing where we're at, what's worked, what do we might need to change going on for the second part of the season. And then we've got some relays in there that kind of looking to see how those are set up and how they swim. I've got some target times I'd like for them to hit that I think if we can hit those now, really help us out come districts and regionals. And then, coming out of that, we come into winter training and it gets kind of long right there. And then, but it happens quick, and all of a sudden you're swimming at region or at districts and then regionals. So, after we get through this big meet, kind of see where we're at, and then start looking at relays and just making sure we've got the right kid in the right spot to make the best situation for all of our swimmers and our whole team going forward. So that's really what those December, January meets are for, is just making sure you've got everything squared away. And, with a lot of these younger kids, that they haven't had the opportunity to be on relays and do things like that. So just making sure we nail down those relay exchanges and accelerating into the wall, not slowing down, just little things like that. So, that's the one thing you don't want to do is go to districts and get DQ'd on a relay exchange and that be the reason why you don't make it to regionals. You want to be the reason why you didn't make it there is because you just didn't swim fast enough, not because you did something silly off the block. So just cleaning all that up going forward.
Well, Kate, how important is that camaraderie in a relay?
I think it's a lot, that's, especially early on in a lot of these kids' careers, is having that gel and knowing, trusting that person swimming into the wall. I think that's when you're standing on blocks, that's one of the biggest things is making sure, because you're doing your thing and you're kind of gauging off of the person in the water. And if they, slow down anyway, and then, you might leave early from the blocks. So it's that close at times. So just having that camaraderie and just making sure, everybody's excited. And I think when you have that too, you swim for each other a little bit more than you normally would. So, and that always brings out the best in everybody when you're trying to do something for others and swim fast. So I think it just brings more of that team atmosphere into it and you're swimming for other people.
Well, and Cade, real quick, okay? So one of the things is it's not a sport that necessarily a lot of people are able to come out to. Y'all have some meets that are pretty far away sometimes. So I know y'all's group is really tight interpersonally because y'all spend so much time together, but just talk about the camaraderie on the team and how y'all as seniors try to really influence that and get these younger kids to buy in to the program standard.
Well, as like the seniors, we're trying our best to create things that we can have like team bonding experiences, because we want to be able to leave a mark with these freshmen and underclassmen. Like, hey, like this is what the seniors did. We want to continue this. We've tried to do some dinners. We've done like our homecoming banner together. We've done that. Basically, we just try to get to know each other to the best of our ability. We hang out outside of swim meets. We hang out during practice times. Like we always crack jokes and stuff if we're not working like super hard. Like we're transitioning from the pool to dry land. We'll crack a couple jokes, talk to coach for a little while. Basically just ask everyone how they've been doing for the past couple of days or something like that.
Awesome. Well, Caitlyn, I got to know, it's one of my favorite questions to ask. All right. Who on the bus gets the aux cord and is trying to get everybody to do TikToks to music that coach has never heard before in his life? Okay. What's the environment like on the bus?
Definitely Cade.
Okay.
Yeah, always setting up his phone to do a TikTok with Jackson when we're doing dryland or, wanting the aux on the bus or, just getting everyone hyped up. I think he's really good at that and he just takes control, but it gets everyone excited. So, yeah.
Well, is that not probably one of the best parts for you as a high school athlete? Is not necessarily, the competitions are great, getting medals is wonderful, but the memories that you make are mainly on that bus most of the time in practice. How impactful do you think that'll be in your life down the road?
I mean, I think it makes a big impact, like learning to connect with those that you're practicing with. I think, me and Kate are in the same lane at practice, and the people you're surrounded by really do make a difference and keep you going. Me and Kate, a lot of times, some days we're excited to be there, and some days it's, we had to drag ourselves there, but we get through it, and just by like encouraging each other, and it really, really does make a difference. Like by the time practice is over, we're like, we just started. That wasn't even bad, and we had fun while we were doing it. So your support around you, and it really keeps you going, and you learn from that. It makes you want to have that kind of environment everywhere you go, and you learn how to build it.
Awesome. Well, Coach Meager, you hear this about the environment and the teamwork and the bonding and everything. Is that not what helps make, these people don't realize how long this swim season is. I really don't think they do. You're normally going a little bit right after volleyball starts, getting your season started with your workouts, et cetera, getting ready for that first meet. It's a long season because you are going past Christmas. Is that not what keeps these kids motivated? And it seems like you're doing a great job of bringing in the fun stuff along with the serious workout.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a long season. It starts in August and runs till mid-February if you make it to state. So I think that's, like you were mentioning, that's where culture comes into play for your program, and creating a place that, is a place to have fun, but it's also, hey, we came here to work and we're going to get better today. But you can still have fun doing it. You can have fun, in all aspects of the program, is I think, and especially like sport, like swim, it's critical to kind of have that, everywhere I've been that we've been successful, it's been kind of our culture takes over. And that's the reason why we are who we are, is because of that. So it's huge. And that's the thing that gets us to the end. I think, as a coach, just getting kids to the end that's a grind itself. That's the whole one of the whole goals is just getting all your kids to the end, because it is a long year. And especially when it starts getting cold, trying to convince them to jump into a pool that's slightly cold and wet. And so it can be a challenging situation, but just creating that atmosphere that they want to do it and really kind of invest in each other and do it because of that.
Well, Kate, I'm going to give you a shot here, okay? We always do this. I want you to find your inner Des Bryant. Okay, I want to get you pumped up, okay? And tell everybody in Ellis County why they ought to come watch Midlothian Heritage Swim meets and how far y'all might take this thing.
Oh gosh. I'd say y'all should come out and watch a swim meet. Things get pretty intense out there whenever we are in the pool, especially on relays. Everybody's screaming and yelling. People are always cheering. And it does feel good whenever you get first. Like I know a couple of my teammates, whenever you're in the water, you can't hear them, but they're screaming their lungs out. Our coach is whistling. It definitely is a good time whenever you are watching a swim. So I'd say that people should come out there and watch if they get the chance.
Very good. Well, Caitlyn, I want the inside scoop, okay? Who are two of these young swimmers, one guy and one girl, that we ought to be looking out for, that y'all are giving all this information to, that you think might be the person that just jumps up and helps your team?
So definitely, I think for the guys, Jalen would definitely be the one I would say to look out for. He's super, just a great guy. He's funny, he's entertaining, he's supportive, he's inclusive. He's just all the things you would look for in a teammate. And he's grown a lot in swimming already. And it's just like, we're not even mid-season yet. Or we're almost there. But he's, gotten better and drop time every meet. He's just really motivated as well. So I would say definitely look out for him. For the girls, I would say we have a lot of young girls who I see a lot of potential in. We have Caitlyn Brown. She's super motivated and, experienced and has a lot of potential. Same with Alyssa Ashmore. She has been out because she got her appendix, but she as well is just climbing on up there. She's a junior. So yeah, we have a lot of talent and potential to grow. And so I'm excited for them. So yeah, keep an eye out for them.
All right. Well, Coach, Caitlyn, Cade, thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Hopefully we can catch up with y'all a little bit after, toward another couple of tournaments here, couple meets, and find out how it's going for you. Well, we appreciate you. And folks, if you can't do it, I know that last tournament sounded a pretty good ways. When they get back over here after the first year, there'll be a couple of close tournaments. Make sure you go out and check our swim teams all around the county. Coach, thanks again.
In Ellis County, we're always on the run. It's always good to know that someone's always there. Doesn't matter the time of day. With ATM Live, hours are always available. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can always pull right up and talk to someone live for that personal service. Or stop by and visit with the friendly folks inside. Pinnacle Bank, not just another bank in Texas, but Texas in a bank. Member FDIC.
In Ellis County, you know where to go for the best pizzas and burgers.
Welcome to Doe City. How are you doing today?
A menu that allows you to have it just the way you like it. Great, friendly customer service. And all the toppings you can handle. So what do our customers say about Doe City?
We come up here all the time, so we love the pizza and the burgers also.
It's somewhere we can all come and have a good time with our friends and enjoy the good food that they have here. I love the fries.
And it's cooked to order, so you're always going to get it fresh.
Doe City's always a great place to come and hang out with your friends.
Whether it's Tuesday or Friday night after a ball game in Ellis County, guess what? You can always make it over and have a little bit of delicious.
It's delicious.
Delicious.
It's delicious.
So come in or order out at Doe City Pizza and Burgers in Red Oak, Texas.